Okay. Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the social media manager,
I'm Samantha. I'm the director.
and we work at the cattery.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we want to talk about the stigma around returning cats to a shelter.
Topic kind of came up because we posted about Wilson, our cat with IBS, being returned 3 times. And a bunch of people in the comments said, I would never return a cat. They're evil. They're terrible. I can't believe they did that. That's not really having a lot of empathy for people. So we just kind of want to touch on that a little bit.
Definitely. Wilson has IBS and has been adopted and returned 3 times. Wilson is a special needs cat. He requires a prescription food, and even then, he can still be a little messy. We first met Wilson in 2016, meaning he's been in and out of our shelter for over 6 years. Wilson was adopted and returned 3 times. He's been with us for about 6 years total. Yeah. So the thing is, there's a lot of things to consider when you hear, I have to return my cat, or a shelter that takes their cats back. What is the alternative? Like, if I don't return the cat to the shelter, what do I do with it? Or what do they do with it when they adopt it? And they're like, oh, I can't keep this cat now. What is the alternative? Like, what would you prefer they do? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, obviously, the best thing if you're not going to return it is to try to rehome it, but that's a whole nother added pressure. And there's just so many bad alternatives that we try to avoid by just making that a policy we have.
Safety net.
Exactly. Yeah. Safety net. Perfect. I love that word for that.
So many people say, I would never do that. I would never take my cat back. I love her too much. Like, quite frankly, you don't know what's going to happen in your life.
Yeah.
You just don't.
No.
So many things happen that, like, you can't predict. For example, when we had a hurricane here and people left their pets behind, of course there was, they don't deserve animals, all the same stuff people always say. But like, I try to think about me in that situation, and I was fortunate in that I had a way to transport, a place to go.
Yeah.
Not everybody does.
Exactly.
And I just started thinking, like, we saw all the videos of the people, like Houston got a lot of flooding. We saw the people with, torrential downpours coming into their house, and like, you don't expect that to happen to you. So when you have, like, Katie has 5 cats and 4 children.
Yeah.
So if that happens to her and it's flooding outside and she has to go to the roof,
yeah.
who's she, like,
what am I gonna do? How am I gonna get my cats on the roof?
Yeah, exactly.
What do I do? Like, honestly, what do I do?
I just remember that time so vividly. Like, we went from
no cry. No, I'm gonna cry if you cry.
preparing to shelter in place to having to evacuate in seconds. Like, it flipped that quickly.
Yep.
And if you're in your home and, like, you thought it was going to be a category 3 and I can ride this out, and in seconds it turned and it's going to be a category 5 and your house is going to be destroyed and you have to leave right then. Like, honestly, we were leaving that next morning. I had 2 dogs at the time. We let them out to use the bathroom one last time before we went to the shelter to load everyone up. And when we looked outside, like, to bring the dogs in, one of my dogs was gone. And we looked and looked and looked. And what was I going to do? Like, we had to leave. It was choose one dog and possibly our lives, or hundreds of shelter cats and my other animals. And we made the decision to leave. And in that moment, she came out of the garbage can.
Oh my God.
I don't know if everybody has them, but we have the big rolly cans here. Mm-hmm. We had put them in the backyard for that night because it was already getting windy before Scott put them inside when we left. And he went to bring them in, and the garbage can was on its side. She had gotten she was a German Shepherd. She got into the garbage can.
Oh my God.
And was hiding.
Aww.
And thank God we were going to bring those in, or else we would not have found her.
Honestly, I wouldn't have thought to bring those in. I would have just left them outside.
So people have to make those decisions. And if, especially in times of, you're choosing whether to feed your children or to feed Wilson, whose food I looked up last night during the live is $66 for a 4-pound bag now.
That's a lot of, well, it used to be a lot of groceries. Groceries are really expensive now, but still, that's groceries.
Like our groceries are around, for me and Scott, $100 a week. Mm-hmm. That's almost a week of groceries for 2 people.
Yep.
She'll do the math and put it on here during
I'll do the math.
Yeah.
That's my math base. Just kidding. It's way worse than that.
So, I mean, just the comments about they should never be able to allowed to have pets again, and there should be a national database to not give anyone a pet that's returned a cat or a dog.
Extreme.
That's really extreme. People go through things in their life that maybe in 2 years they have a better job, or like there were a bunch of layoffs during the pandemic.
Yeah. Exactly.
And sometimes you have to choose, and it's terrible, and it's terrible for that person. And we've seen people come in bringing back their animal and just bawling.
Yeah.
Like, it's terrible.
It's so hard.
So just before you make those comments, there's always a person on the other end with feelings. Like, people just assume like the faceless being that returned Wilson, and like they were a person. Like, they have feelings. You don't know the whole story.
Right. Exactly. And that's something too, is when I made the video, I even said in the video, we're not shaming the adopters. And I didn't want to go too much into detail on that video, but literally, you don't know the whole story, like Sam just said. And honestly, we might not even know the whole story.
We don't even know the whole story.
Exactly. The only thing is that it wasn't working out, and they did what they thought was best by bringing Wilson back to us.
They loved him enough to bring him back.
Exactly. And he's very loved here too. Like, it's not like he's sitting like he's not, what do I want to say? I'm not going to put that in. I was going to say, like, he's not like in a little cage.
Yeah.
Like, he's back at the cattery. Like, it's the best place for him to be if he's not in a home. It's second best. It's like a second home. And, it's just not fair to assume that everybody is evil because they end up not being able to keep their pet. There's people who end up developing allergies a couple weeks later, up to a couple years later, that they were not expecting. And that's like got to be the hardest decision ever, because either you're going to try to live with these allergies, which are really debilitating for some people. Like, it's hard to get through your day, just a normal day, versus, I have to take my cat back. I have to give up this animal that I love and who loves me. And
it's not always as simple as just taking a pill.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes it's a lot worse than that.
Exactly.
And sometimes people do everything that they can to try to keep their cat, and
still doesn't work out.
Yeah, it still doesn't work out. So
it's a decision I hope that nobody has to ever have to make.
We hope you don't have to make that decision,
because that's hard.
I hope I don't have to make that
decision.
Me too. You never know. You just don't know. And like, my husband's been laid off before, and luckily he found a job very quickly, but like, we had to cut everything out.
It comes down to just having empathy for the people too, cat people, or not cat people, animal people in general. I hear a lot, oh, I don't like people.
Like, literally, we're all people. And people. Our donors are people, our supporters are people. You're a people.
Yeah.
I'm a people. I'm literally a person.
Literally, Samantha person. Literally.
I digress.
So yeah, just be nice. Be kind to people. Think about it a little more deeply than the surface. It's a lot deeper than it appears to be.
We'll beat this into the ground, but you never know what people are going through or what they have gone through to make that decision.
Yeah.
And like, we're obviously not perfect. Like, some cats come back and I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I get it. But then I try to think, okay, if I was in this situation, and so, it takes training to, train your brain,
honestly,
to look at look at every side.
Yeah.
And like, we're not here to judge. We just are thankful that people loved the cat enough to bring it back.
Exactly.
Even though so many people online bash people that bring cats back to shelters, animal rescues in general. Sometimes people, they have the reputation of not being friendly.
Yeah.
So even though we try to portray ourselves and be a friendly shelter, that, you know, they might have different experiences or expect to be chastised or degraded. So just that they're taking that chance.
Yeah, it's brave.
It's brave.
It's hard and brave, and it's a hard choice. They might be mean to me, but I'm trying to do what's best for the cat and for me.
Yeah.
Going through things.
Sometimes we need help.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something that I know I've told people here, but obviously this is a new podcast, so I haven't not really told people, but in the early 2000s, I returned a cat that I had adopted. And I returned that cat because she was fighting with my cat. My cat was older. And I just couldn't make it work out. And that was before Google and before us, before knowing like people out there to help. Yeah. And I reached out for the shelter to help me, and they didn't. They just had to bring her back. So that was a different time. But shelters can be like that, just they don't offer any guidance. But also, they weren't mean to me. They just didn't offer any guidance.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't have guidance to give.
Or maybe they didn't know either.
Maybe they didn't know either.
Let's bring it back. I don't know.
Was like 2002.
Yeah. Cat. Yeah. Cats don't like other cats. Bring back.
So, what if I got put on a database?
I know. We've never had the cattery.
Yeah, like,
don't give that woman any cats.
9,000 cats adopted, over 40,000 surgeries. But what if the shelter had been mean to me and discouraged me? And
that's also really creepy to say. Put them on a database. Isn't that what we're trying to avoid? Like
Big Brother,
right? I don't want to be on any database like that. Sounds horrible. We don't need that.
Or you're in a bad situation in life now, that doesn't mean you will be in 10 years.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it gets better for you. And then when you're ready, you can have a cat.
We've even had people like surrender cats because they were in a bad situation, and then several months later things turned around and they came back and the cat was still here, and they adopted it again, and it was happily ever after. So
you just never know.
You never know.
And hopefully it never happens to you, but if it does, I hope somebody shows you compassion too.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for this episode. We post a new episode every Monday. So if you like our podcast, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share.
Tell us if you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about.
Yeah, let us know, because we want to answer your questions. We want you guys to be involved, and we want to answer your questions. So yeah, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.